Good evening, everybody. Brother Ed coming to you once again from Louisville, Kentucky, with American Stealth and the news you can use. I'm going to share a little bit with you of what we stand to lose if we don't start now to fight back. Walking in the sand, hand in hand, never thinking that it could end. Making our love in the moon above at the drive-in picture show. It was burgers and fries and cherry pies in a world we used to know. In a world that we used to know. A world, a country where we had freedom. That freedom is all but gone. In some places in this country and throughout the world, it is gone. We can have the burgers and the fries and the cherry pies, but will the world that we used to know be the world that we have tomorrow? Arizona Senator Martha McSally called for the executive director of the World Health Organization to resign, saying he is responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths across the globe, and he should step down. And I agree with that to some extent. He is responsible for all of this mayhem, largely, but not completely. However, not responsible for all the deaths that are occurring from what is obviously the flu going around the world. Now, didn't the UN claim that the U.S. would pay for our lack of climate hoax reform? Looks like maybe they might have meant that. And this is not about fake global warming. We have known for many years now that the warming trend has been from normal natural cycles, solar cycles, and that we are now in a trend of cooling once again from normal natural solar cycles. This has been going on for millions, if not billions, of years already. The Earth was at one point a big snowball, and at other times the whole planet was nothing but molten rock. This is normal. These things happen periodically every so often. None of it has happened in a very long time. Certainly not in the lifetime of any of us. U.S. troops deployed over U.S.-Mexico border, allegedly to prevent COVID-19 exposure. Of course, we know COVID-19 does not exist. As greater authority is granted to the U.S. military, Americans could find themselves spied on by the National Guard itself. The very people that are supposed to be defending and protecting could become spies. So be careful who you trust. The war on drugs is a war on Americans. It always has been, and it always will be. If they really wanted to stop the drugs from coming into this country, they could do it. They need to start here and work their way out rather than starting on the outside and working their way in. Folks, if you didn't know, this is big money and big business for this country. That's why it hasn't stopped. It's big money for prisons, law enforcement, and rehab centers. They don't want the drugs to stop. They want them to keep flowing in here. That's why it hasn't been stopped. If you didn't know, that's why. I mean, think about it. We've had 3 presidents so far, including the one that we have now. Bush and Obama both had U.S. Marines guarding Afghan poppy fields. Trump has actually had them in there hoeing and raking, helping them grow the poppies. If you didn't know that, yeah. So I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly convinced that they want the drugs out, or they wouldn't be aiding and abetting Afghan poppy farmers and getting all the heroin that's on the streets of the United States here. Think about it. This is not a pandemic. It's a scamdemic. An authoritarian, top-down control system is being imposed worldwide. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, once owned an insurance company that now runs a CV-19 testing website. I don't think that's a coincidence. Gives testing locations all over the country, and I wonder, does he still own it? Did he really used to own it? I would say probably does. And I would also suggest watching this guy very closely. I don't trust him. I haven't since I heard about him, and I don't trust him anymore now. What can we do to stop the deceit and the panic? Well, there are two things that we can do to stop it and bring freedom back. First thing that we need to do is start practicing open civil disobedience. And yes, it will come with its own degree of danger. That is true. People could get arrested. Some people could get hurt. But guess what? The black folks of the 60s, they knew what the risks were when they started fighting for their freedom. And they did it anyway. They had guts. And that's what Americans of this day need to either have or find and start using them. I suggest that you go places where you're being told you can't go. And I suggest that you go in numbers. Put your arms around each other and be affectionate, close up. Don't keep your distance. That's where it needs to begin. That's what we need to do. If that doesn't work, well, I can be honest with you, I believe it will. Politicians will start backing down on these idiotic restrictions. Second step, however, is we need to change the voting paradigm. I know a lot of people are not going to like hearing this, and I'm sorry that you don't, but I believe that a good portion of you know that I'm telling you the truth. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are all in on this. They're doing it together for an election, all for the sake of an election. Well, that's part of it, as I said earlier. The rest of it is obviously the so-called Democrats, who are really socialists, fascists. They're getting everything that they want. They don't even have to have anybody of their own party in the White House to get it. It's obvious that Trump felt like he had no choice but to go along with it, or they were going to make him look like he was the killer of America. So of course he went along with it. He has to make himself presentable to the people. And I hate to say it, but us tubers are partly responsible too. And we didn't know at the time what we were doing. I personally believe that the UN was paying those Chinese people to go on the internet. I can't prove any of this. I'm just telling you what I believe. I believe the UN was paying them, and China was probably paying them too, to go on the internet and tell people that thousands and thousands of people were dying. They were cremating 100 people a day at every crematorium and make it look like it was a whole lot worse than it really was. I really do believe that that is what happened. And of course, the UN, think about it, if the United States is spying on all of us, you think the UN isn't spying on the world? spying on Google and YouTube to see who's doing and saying what? They were, I'm sure. I'm sure they still are. And they knew, no doubt, that as soon as the tubers got a hold of this, even just a little bitty whiff of it, we were going to run with it. And then the Democrats saw what we were doing, and they thought, oh, we can use this as a campaign strategy against Trump. These people don't even know it, but they just gave us a brilliant idea. I think we were used, honestly. I really do believe that we were all being used in a really bad way. And we didn't realize it because there was no way that we could realize what was going on at the time. And now we see what's going on. We see what's happening. And if we don't do something about it, folks, nobody else is going to. And if it comes to the point of us losing every bit of freedom that we've ever had, we will have no one to hold responsible for that but ourselves. We can stop it. And that's what we need to do. I've given you the method and the means. It's time that we begin a process of taking back this country. We're the only ones that can do it. Nobody can do it for us. Like it or not, that's the way it is. Till next time, be at peace, be in prayer, be prepared, don't stop praying, and start fighting back. Brother Ed, signing out.